for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine. So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video update with me here today. It will be actually a very important one in the compilation of transgression and deception work. I'm actually going to call it the Great Deception work, and how the darkness deceives and manipulates the family of light in order for us to not move into or create or ascend a timeline. I want to talk about my recent transgression experience release and some other things. So before I get to the topic, in which I'll be sharing more about the many, many ways through which I've been seeing and with my clear cognizance moved through and was pulled through in Aurea's sight and illumined vision, the kind of things I've been seeing and witnessing, I was told by my Illumined Light family that no human has ever witnessed on Earth before. So the things I will uncover to you here today, take them with a proper responsibility, don't take them just lightly and, something to brush off and think it's not happening to you, because whatever exists in the entirety of creation affects everyone and everything and all of life, of course. Yes, I want to begin by, what should I begin with? Because I have so many things to talk about today. Perhaps about the notion of the recent unfolding. As you know, I was talking about the mission completion, and somehow it just didn't feel quite right for me to share those videos. It's a 4-video compilation that I'll probably start sharing next week. But before I do that, I want to say that I'm not really feeling well right now. I'm actually very exhausted, fatigued. I can barely move my body because I've been actually through what was talked about, what was shown to me as one of the last transgression waves. And the thing is, I thought it was complete, I really did, but we were pulling the last roots of this experience through my body, and well, it just so happens that this happened on my birthday. So on the day of my solar return, this started occurring. It was actually a few days before, when my plexus started tied up again. And this is not, the kind of thing you might relate to being nervous or upset or, anything to do with power. I know this kind of symptom because I've been having it the entire winter, when I was going through these transgression wave releases in the dark winter period in that basement apartment, in that cellular apartment. And it's actually was brought back, and a part of me was like, no, it's not mine. It must be something else. I just didn't want to be with that again. And what occurred was that I actually managed to resurrect enough of the life force through that tantric orgasmic cultivation again, because that each moment you upsurge again and you resurrect that light pulls that heaviness and darkness back up. And this is simply how we do the work as the mission team for the Illumined Liberation. It's basically a part of Aurea's Illumined plan. My plan as Aurea is my spirit self. Her plan is, as I'm seeing it and witnessing, all coming together as if delayed and genius. It's a master plan. Of course, Aurea is a master lumen being. And seeing all these pieces coming together, and also souls tied into this part, and souls to liberate, and all these things just makes perfect sense. So as I've been going deeper, this has been occurring. And last week, these pulse tension started occurring in my plexus again. At first, I just brushed it off, said it's something minor, but then it started to deepening and deepening. So I was actually dozing off a bit because I was doing heavy work all these days. I wasn't resting at all, actually. It was just before my birthday. I wanted to get lots of things in the mission call done, so I was so tired, I just dozed off a bit. And as I was in almost this in-between state, right, which we call this trance state, I heard very clearly the words 1, 2, 3, jump, but they were almost sung to me. Like it was like 1, 2, 3, jump, and the word jump created a crack. And I started wondering what this is about. I couldn't fully understand, and it wasn't shown, of course, what this was until it was over, until we were ready to, go through that in completion. So what followed was, on my birthday, I got this notion that, you know, there's something that is happening, and I realized this is another wave. So we were actually doing these intense healings, these sessions together with my mom, and we started calling back. Well, it's always there, but we started calling in Master Jesus again, because he is the Sacred Heart illuminator. And, you know, we are, although we are a different mission team, his light, what he does is specific, and it's also very needed in this sorts of work. What he actually revealed after this process was that, you know, because I witnessed, it just isn't over, and it isn't so simple as I thought, you know. And when these things were being pulled out of me again, I was again, you know, experiencing or re-experiencing this deep pain that I've been having in the belly, you know, the plexus contractions, and I'll share what these things are. But when he came through, you know, he helped with the heart resurgence. And those of you who don't know or even haven't invited him into your own ascension work, I would truly advise you to do so, because those of you walking this path of Illumined Ascension and Union, you know that this is a path that's not for the faint at heart. And we sometimes release so much that our heart kind of dims a bit, and that's what he helps with. So recently we did this session with my friend, with my chosen one, with my family, a creation angel, beautiful being, and I actually channeled Jesus for the first time ever. I was like, no, you know, that's something that my mom does. That's more a part of her calling, and she was always his devotee. But this was the first time, because he came through this session we did on me, and I really felt him at that time. And even in me channeling him, he said, well, Polona for the first time really connected with me, you know, like she really took me in. And when he came through that session, he told my friend that he wants to offer her a gift, and that gift is called the Shaktipat. And in Sanskrit, this actually means a strong heart transference, or it's actually a transference of a spiritual energy that a highly evolved or an illumined being, people call them gurus, but I don't use that word, they possess, and they can transfer that onto someone who's open and ready to receive. So we this like heart transference in which he just emanated and exuded his great heart's light. And so that was really beautiful. And this kind of triggered this a very heartfelt process for me as well, because I was able to cultivate enough heart love for this, and enough spiral through my body again, that this kind of what they call the last layer that was deeply rooted, that, you know, the body had to release in waves. I told you this before, because this was really disturbing in what it was, and how and what it created in the body, you know. So Jesus actually, when he came after we did the healing, he said this was actually the greatest holocaust that ever existed on earth. He says it exists, and unfortunately most people don't want to witness it. And, you know, I know this was a bigger purpose, because a lot of people might think, when I shared about transgression and my experience, people thought, well, it's just her experience. They couldn't have been more wrong. And that's the thing, and that's the reason why I need to speak about this, because Aurea's plan was never, okay, let's go under this, and, you know, this is my own karma and something that I'll deal with in this life. Aurea created this master plan because she, through me, she was the only one awake and with enough illumined knowledge of liberation and enough love to hold for that sacrifice, who could actually wake up from all of this. Because if the majority of the people went through what I did, they would never wake up from it, and probably they would even die. So if you understood how much these discharges of these electric ET frequencies that are still very much unbeknownst and unfamiliar even to the family of light, but they're studying them in this way when we experience them as illumined ones. If you understood just how deeply they went, then you would know why this was such a heavy process, and why in the last years all I did was release these energies through my body, and my body being so tortured and tormented, and, you know, in such heavy states. And that's when the final, you know, few moments they were saying to me, as I, you know, was tossing and turning in my bed, they were saying just a few more things, you know, just a little work left. They were saying, like, just a little, hold on, you know, just a little left. And when I heard those words, 1, 2, 3, jump, I felt it in my heart, and I kind of oversaw, and I knew, you know, that this was kind of like what Aurea does. She prepares, she creates enough of the lift off, and then she jumps into the darkness and then pulls the darkness out. So what these energies create, right? I'll talk about in the second part of the video, because I want to continue with my own personal experience here. The reason why it concerns everyone, and the reason why I had to undergo this as the firstborn, Aurea's direct incarnation in this physical world, in this matter, without any lifetimes before, is I had no previous attachments to lifetimes, or, you know, blurry spots or blurry visions or blindfolds, you know, these things. The only thing I had were their inception points, right? And the only thing that could truly heal and liberate this was my love. And when I say those words, I don't mean the love I hold for this body, for myself as Polona, but the love Aurea feels. And that love came through me as well, because I am her, in the physical human form. And that love was the love to do that liberation on the part of the entire family. Aurea did this to save the children. Nowadays we all talk about this code, save the children. This is just one of the things happening. But the reason, even what Jesus explained, is why that is so difficult, this way, this part of transgression, is because it's so invisible, because it's energetic, and no one will ever detect it. When I was back then when I was in the hospital, right, in emergency room that winter, I think it was in December month last year, no one could locate anything, and I was in such pain like never before in my life, here and here. I still can feel my skin here, right? I told that, shared that experience. And these electric currents have been ongoing in my life, but they were so deeply hidden that, as I've shared, until I unravel what this was, I couldn't start healing the body, because what we do is we need to recognize, witness, and then pour all the love for that sacrifice. And that love dissolves these energies. And that's why I was the only one who could do it. And I did it on the behalf of everyone, because most people don't know they are transgressed. There's different levels. That kind of transgression I experienced, not everyone does. But the problem is, and I'll talk about this today, is very, very advanced beings such as myself, they can't get in ordinary, normal ways, with astral entities, hooks, and possessions, because we're very powerful beings. Most people can be deceived just by receiving, outside information that can deceive them, or being misinformed because they don't have the proper spiritual knowledge. They don't understand light and dark and how dark operates. Aurea is the master of illumination through the dark. And that's why I was the only one who could do this, because I am her. She created her extension to help, to save everyone from this evil holocaust that exists, and it's astral and it's energetic and it's really ongoing. But until you realize, you witness it, and you liberate yourself through the knowledge of God and your power as a sovereign God being, it will continue to persist, as you're going to be resisting it with the blindfold and saying it doesn't exist. So advanced beings like myself, the only way for darkness to get us is to put these codes written in our body. So these codes that are basically their programs, they're actually equations, and I explained that before. They have to be written deeply into our core of the cell. They're written into the cellular memory, because beings like myself, we're knowers. And divine knowers, we function through the principle of cellular knowingness, which means the entirety of morphogenetic cellular memory knows. So I don't get visions or, like prophecies, but I know through my body, and that's why that knowing is the purest form of divine intelligence through the body. And I've explained that recently in my Illumined Impulses in the body video. So because that can be altered, because we simply are that advanced and we have our knowing, the only way that they can work against beings like that, these advanced beings, is they're going to enter our bodies, they're going to mine our bodies, and they're going to create these programs of distortions, making us believe from within that these are our thoughts, our projections, our desires, our feelings, our basic body impulses, right? So what they can do, for example, right, when they can hook into the plexus area, there's all these hooks, these hubs going from your belly, and they're connecting you to the hub station there, to their centers, their hub stations in the astral and the lower astral. So they have these holographic imaging printing systems that they're actually sending you these visuals and these images. And you're basically looking at these images and you believe that's what you're seeing, so they can hijack the vision this way. They can't do it directly because of the nature of our sovereignty as God beings, as illumined beings. So this last wave of transgression that I was actually unplugging, this was deep at the core, was very difficult, because it felt like all my energy went there. And this is always when I'm healing transgressions, like all the energy goes there and wasted. And it was very difficult this time, because simultaneously I was helping my own, Illumined family member, my friend, my creation angel disciple. And I was with her every single moment. And at the same time, I just fell into this, and I had to really be with myself. So when that started happening at a specific point, I had this deep knowing what's happening, because I kept going outside of myself, thinking I'm needed elsewhere, right? This was actually the pivotal point of releasing this final hold, because I had to actually witness what happens at the core. And the things that I witnessed were an abomination, my dear beloveds, okay? You have to know that everyone, when we're born onto this planetary sphere, it's very difficult to enter through the earth's womb of the earthly mother, the one that holds us as a baby, as a child, as a sweet innocent child. So they're trying to get a lot of these souls, they're trying to get a hold of them even through the birth canal, and imposing these false, not illumined, but false contracts. And my friend saw that, and that will be shared in the videos to follow. But I never signed such a contract, because even as a child I was very awake, and I was a knower, and I was very brave. My child, when I do inner child sessions, she calls calls himself, herself, I'm the brave one, and it really is. My child is very developed because my being is developed, hence my child is also developed. It's not a wounded child. My child said, I'm not wounded, I was just silenced, I was siphoned. So what they created for me in the very core, the very beginning, is also what most human bodies have. So the moment you're born onto this planet, kind of a bit of that source connection is broken, and especially it's not broken, but it's lessened. It's kind of watered down. And the majority of souls who have been incarnating on Earth for such a long time, their connection becomes very watered down until they're kind of like to the point that they don't know themselves as source anymore, or their light dims, or they can't connect to that true love they have at their core of their origin of who they are as a soul being. So what this does, it moves into this pattern, which is I'm not enough. So from that center point, when you're not enough, right, we always have to do more, do better, follow these instructions, right? And for me, how that played out was I always felt like I need to be the giver. And they basically gave me this false impulse. It was not coming from my divine self. Because you have to know the divine rule is you first have to receive in order to give, kind of like that analogy they give you on the plane. As you first have to give as a mother mask on to breathe, right? The breathing apparatus to yourself before you put it on your child. Because then if there is no you, there's no caretaker. And this is exactly what Jesus told me throughout the session. He said, if you have no body, if you neglect your body, if you don't tend to yourself, there is no Aurea. So what do we gain here? There's no Aurea without you, without the body. So you can't do a higher purpose. A lot of beings who are here as starborn, they don't know that. They're trying to tend to others and fulfill everyone else's needs. And, they always tell me, don't fixate on others. And I do. It's a part of my program in a way, or what was programmed into me, is that it continuously keeps you on this looping mental program. I'm the available one because I can, right? So I will give it because I can. I'm fine. My program was always saying, but I'm fine. I don't need to take care of me because I'm fine. I'll survive. I have to focus on someone else who's doing, worse than me. And that was not the truth, because you always have to ask the child first, how you doing? And he has to say, I'm fine. And he really is fine, or she. Then you tend to another. And it has to be from this flow. Something you can create, you generate it from flow, not by being needed. And that was the pattern that basically ingrained into me. Never feeling good enough, always needing to do more. And I actually saw them approaching me, right? They were approaching me. I saw them approaching me as a child. You know what they did? They told me that this work with them, what they're going to do, we're going to do together, it was never together, it was always them, right? It was enforced. But they actually convinced me at that level. They told me they're doing this because I'm the special one. They told me, you're the chosen one. You're special. And because you're special, we're going to do this. In a nutshell, I am the chosen one. I am special, but through God. And what they did, they reversed it. Thinking and, kind of like deceiving the child, thinking, oh, I'm chosen for this. This is something special. So they did this reversal, right? And all these years, they were doing these experiments with this electrical charges. So the reason why they use this electric charges, because these energies they're using, this electricity, it rewrites the cell and the cellular memory. So that what you're feeling in your body, you think it's yours, right? The impulses you're getting, you believe they're yours. Like this half of the journey in my life was kind of them instructing me to go, 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 because I have to explain this again for those of you who haven't watched those parts that I already shared in these master courses about transgression. I think they came in winter time. What they do, right? Their nature is not God, because they pull themselves away from God. So what they do, they have to research the code. They're trying to get to the code artificially. They're trying to mine God as for information. And so what they do is they use the family of light, right? Those of us who are here as light beings, they're using us and our bodies because our bodies reflect our divine intelligence and direct plugging into God. And because I was the firstborn, I was the most interesting one because I have direct access to the divine. So they're actually counteracting the natural principle of God, the holy divine Trinity, and the principle of how God creates through love, wisdom, and power. And they are trying to pursue you for information. And hence, every time I'm clearing that, you know what happens? I actually have a dream where I'm in my high school and there's this math teacher and we're doing these math tests and everyone's like ahead of me and they're kind of pushing me, go, 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 you know, and I don't know what to do and it's so hard. And it's a natural. And I know now what these dreams have meant all these years. It was them. It was their math lab and math equation, you know, and their sciencey ways because they use my light, my speed. You have to know something as Aurea. I'm a knower, and everyone who's ever worked with me has come into this understanding that I can access any piece of divinity, of divine knowing for everything and everyone like this, because I have direct source plug-in. My friend now, my fellow creation angel, she's been with me for weeks, and she's saw me and she's witnessed me because we've been together every day. She's like, I don't know how you, but you always know. How do you always know? I don't know, because I'm divine. I'm that close to God. But they want to use that against you. So they were using me all these years to get my speed of light, my speed of this divine intelligence that's organic, that's fluid, and they were using this light for their own advantages, right? So they were causing me to be very hyperactive and, you know, hypervigilant and like always on the go and needing to always be there for everyone and go, 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 you know, speed, speed, speed. And I felt all these years like I'm this fireball rushing through space, and at a certain point I'm just gonna burn out because it's gonna, you know, just explode because it's too much. And that's what's been happening with me all these years. That's the looping. That's the looping point, right? I also saw them, you know, the deeper I went, these programs through their voices they've been putting into me. So this was like the very opposite of the breath of life, which is what the mother gives to us as the holy children, as the Christ principle, the children of the sun. So they actually put these falsehoods and print them into your cells. And when you're awakening to that transgression, you're going to hear them as sentences. And these are very rigid sentences. For example, you know, when they were showing me these images of my beloved being dead and not alive and all these unclear images, so they would confuse me. And sometimes it would feel like statements, like with the sound, you know, the one that I recently excavated out of the body that came out during that night, and I had night sweats all night, and that's when it came out and just broke through it. They placed like a false king, you know, the false beloved, into my imprint so that I couldn't access my true beloved, who I always known to be so and such. And because of that, I couldn't access him and our connection anymore throughout all these years. So basically, all these things they write into the cells, and the reason why it's so difficult to release that, there's no method, my dear, there's no kind of way of healing, there's no modality. People are like, oh, just go get healed, go to a healer. No, there is no such thing. It doesn't exist. There's no method to counteract their deeds. It doesn't exist, not on this planet, not with the level of healers that exist now, not with their level of awakening and, in most cases, misinformation. This kind of thing, this cellular rewrite, it's not something that someone can do. As I'm a star being, I will activate your DNA and rewrite you, whatever. This is hokey pokey. It doesn't exist. The problem is that the body has to come in the right kind of amount of spiral alignment, and it has to work together with your Illumined Light family, and it has to have assistance. So I do have direct assistance in form of these beautiful Illuminatorian beings called the Aureus and their pulsars. They're the ones who initiated me into the pulsar technique. So for me to do these releases, it was always a combination of getting just the right amount of spiral and, you know, like blocking through organic love intelligence, you know, being with earth, being with nature, being in joyful frequencies. And then they helped me to move the pulsar through. And so far they said no one knows the pulsar. The only one I actually introduced physically the pulsar to was my direct kin, right? Which is my beautiful fellow creation angel friend, my chosen one. And so she was the only one I kind of slowly, you know, initiated her into that. And it's still kind of needing lots of practice. It's not something you just master. So they were teaching me these all these years because they're kind of pulling that out. So recently, through this last few sessions we were doing, and my mother was actually, she's a part of the group who call themselves the healers, the healer group. And they were always sending me these currents of light, and she saw this huge powerful current of light moving through me. And when it went through me, like, I felt this tingling and itching everywhere in my body. And she said, wow, this was a huge, column of light they generated. But in the next session, what happened, she actually saw these illumined Arcturians. They're actually angelics. They look like light orbs, but they're like joyful filled orbs of light, and they're just amazing beings. They're just full of light, and I speak their language. Actually, their language is very funny. It sounds very phonetic, and when they come through, they use a combination of their language, their light language, and sound, and they kind of help the body to uplift, because the body has to hold the right amount of love and like vibrational attunement at that time, so this can be pulled out. So my mother saw them like at the foot of the plexus area, and there were like 4 orbs. She saw them like on every corner, and they were like orbs, and she saw them like pulling this out together, right? So when I had this last wave, this was happening tonight, it was very hard, and I had such terrible cramping and fatigue and pain all at once. I just didn't know what to do, and I just kept on breathing, and we were doing this work. This was the longest session we did. I think my mother was with me for like 2 hours holding space before it got dark and nighttime. And we spoke to the child, and I was unveiling them and what they were doing, how they approached me, and this like getting to the core of this, you're not enough, keep on doing, keep on going, keep on doing, keep on doing. And that doing was for them. It's not based on my true original Aurea's illumined design, Elohim design of illumined child, which is I receive in order to create. I receive from God, I receive from source, and then I create through the triangulation or tantric principle of life giving. So they create the opposite. They create this looping, like being on a hamster wheel, in which you're always like needing to do more, more, more. And that kind of manifested in my life. Like me, let's say I would give to someone something as an offering, but then I couldn't stop myself. I just kept on rolling like a fireball, right? Couldn't stop myself, like more and more. And they need me, and they need me, and they need me, right? That was basically their manifestation. And it was basically these electric currents that kept going into me for years. That's what it created. Was it electrocuted me? Yes, in a way, electrified me. Not in a good way, actually. When you say I'm feeling electric, it wasn't like that. It's basically rewriting the divine code for the divine Christ feminine principle, which is life, which is, it's feminine. And it's a receptive principle upon which all life is built and created from. So they basically rewired that principle, and they made me more electric than magnetic. Right? So all these years they were wiring me, and I was always like giving, the giver. I need to, right? This need was being constantly produced by me, because I thought that was me. It was coming from me, right? That's what they did, the tricksters, making me believe all these years that's my own voice and that's something I need to do. It's my own feeling. But it's funny, right? Because the body, the inner child, always knew. It always knew when this was against myself. It always knew what was transgressed. I always knew who my beloved is, The feeling knows, the child knew. And it said, but they gave me this substitute. I was crying in one of the sessions, like my child was saying, no, it's a substitute. They've taken the real one and they give me the substitute. And I was crying, And the child knew. And that's one of the things I'm teaching, this illumined life force body mastery, because you have to be so precise and consistent in your body, that you know exactly what your child will say. And not everyone's child is as powerful and as wise, as mine is, because I'm a direct extension of Aurea. But we can all illuminate the child to know and to feel more through the power of life force cultivation we do more and more in the body. Hence, remember, and I told you all these years, the more cultivation of the spiral and the feminine principle I was doing in my body, the more it was actually uncovering what these, let me just call them bastards, because that's what they are. I don't want to say any bad words, like the one that starts with the letter F. So I'm just going to say bastards. What they created in spite of that, as an opposition. They reversed it. So through these electric charges, they were creating me more as this, as a creation of their principle, which is electric in a way that's like, go, 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 more information, need, more. It was never enough, because they themselves, right, are a black hole. And I explained this before, and this kind of life and living it this way made me follow that black hole instead of the beautiful illumined light that is my true nature, my design, and my family, and who I am as a being. So it was very difficult to uncover these last few parts, because, as you know, for you to reverse something completely, remove it, you have to go to the core. And the core was what they distorted was, right, they distorted the principle of the chosen one and being special in a negative way, right, serving them through these experiments, because they never signed their original contract, which they kind of try to present to every child birthed on a planet. They will present this, and some out of fear, because they're actually threatening them, you know, it's in the womb still. And a lot of them out of fear, they do sign. So in a way, they're serving them, not truly the light. And they're not always going to know. There's a lot of people who are actually very spiritual inside, and they're focused on the light, but they're actually serving the dark, and they can't see it. They have these blindfolds. And I'll explain some of these things and how they're occurring in this last part of the video, okay? But you have to know it's the truth. Like Jesus said, this was the greatest Holocaust that existed, and the reason why it's so difficult is you can't really trace it. It's so phantom-like in nature, and I was the first one to bring it up to the surface, to talk about it clearly. And people thought, well, this is just her story. No, my beloveds, this story is universal. And in many of these lesser or denser realms, and the fallen realms, fallen worlds, these beings use these fallen worlds to anchor themselves in their lack of consciousness, and then mine for information for those beings, for divine beings who incarnate there, to do these reversals. And so remember, you can't really shift the timelines, and without knowledge, you have to use the pulsar, and people don't know that. I hope I'm going to be teaching that in the times to come, or in the near future, how to reverse timelines and how to create your own ascended or ascension timeline. A lot of people nowadays, especially because of the new age, this huge intrusion, I'll just call it, they think that we're just all ascending because the planet is ascending, as the sun is ascending, and everything's just happening automatically. No, beloveds, it's not the truth. You don't just automatically ascend. You have to create your ascension timeline. Those of us who've been doing this work of mining, toiling, so we can liberate for the whole of those, not for the whole as all souls, no, for the whole of those who are ready to ascend, right? Don't project now this to the collective. There is no such thing as the collective. There is only the collective of the chosen ones within a particular frame or a group of souls that have or share a dynamic that kind of brings the tendency of ascending. It's not like just general. You know, that's a hoax too. I'm going to present you now some of the main principles that have been distorted. For example, the basic principle you hear nowadays in New Age, we're here for Gaia because Gaia's ascending, right? That keeps so many souls looping in this program. And if you haven't woken up from that one, you better start doing now, knock, knock, because, you know, we all had to in a way. What that does, it creates, again, a principle of need within you. And anything created of need is a distortion. When you're truly a divine sovereign, there's no need for you even to be here, even to learn lessons. There's no such thing. You as a sovereign being are the only one who can choose whether you want to learn lessons, whether you want to create realms, whether you want to, you know, just whatever you want to do. That's the true freedom of God. That's true free will. So being here for Gaia, false, because Gaia is just a template. It's a planetary station of life and providing life forms for souls to evolve through learning about themselves in this station of life, in this density of life, in this variation of creation. And it's created for the evolution of souls and together with the evolution of these souls. When you think you're here for Gaia or for the planet or for another person or being, wrong. Because you're going to start looping around that. But the only thing you need to revolve yourself around is your own sun, which is your I am principle, the principle of your own illumined truth, your own creation principle of I am God. I'm a cosmic Christ. I'm a divine sovereign. So we only need to spiral around ourselves. What these distortions do, they make us like loop around other things, right? And around other individuals. Okay, so that's one huge distortion. Free will is the second biggest probably distortion, which is you have free will, you can do whatever you want. No, beloved, sorry, tongue-tied because I'm very tired. I'm exhausted, actually. You know, I can feel my legs today. I'm shaking all over because when you release such a huge pile of, I don't even know what to call it. It's just, ugh, it's pure yuck, you know? And when you're releasing that through your beautiful body, it's just, at a certain point, I just couldn't feel my body anymore. Everything was like pain and numbness, and it was really hard. So sorry for my inability to speak properly all the time. But yeah, free will is very distorted because the only true nature of free will is divine will. There is no other free will but divine will. They're one and the same. The distorted free will, however, makes you believe, you know, you're doing all these things. You can do whatever you want. You can, you know, just you know, and yeah, that gets you on this karmic wheel, which means you're looping for them, you're looping for the dark, and you're being constantly reincarnated back into the hub, right, into the you know, incarnating wheel. Instead of being one with the spiral of life, you're spinning in the wheel. Yeah, that's something really heavily distorted. These false light projections, you know, a lot of people think they go to the masters and masters design their life for them, and they're seeing these figurines. A lot of that, again, has been distorted, as you know. So they're using these principles to make people believe this life was just chosen like that, it's fixated, and you can't do anything about it. Let's say you have a relationship, and a person might pick up on that falsehood, and they might think, well, I've chosen this person, and even if I'm not happy, I'm supposed to be with them because I guess it's a part of my karmic lesson or learning. No, my beloved, your only true mission here is to be love and embody love. And if anything hinders you from that love or makes you have a distorted experience of that love, it's a hijacking. It's not coming from God. God is love. God only wants you to, whenever you are, wherever you are, in any facet of life, to be happy and to feel joy in whatever pursuit you're doing. All the higher realms, beings are creating through joy and lavish abundance because of that. They're creating through the image and likeness of who they are as divine God beings, godly or godlike beings, because God in its own nature is just this pure, ancient, primordial life force, and it's just the essence of all life, all beings combined and everything combined. But we're all godly in nature when we follow through the principles of God as love, wisdom, and power. A very simple principle of divine Trinity. And the next principle, God as Father, Mother, and the Holy Christ, right? The Holy Spirit of life. And the third principle that's very important for you to know is the principle of spirit, soul, and the body, which of course also connect to our three main portals in the body, the crown, the heart, and the root. And I've talked about the root is the principle of El or Elohim, or the Elven design of life, which is life full of life. It's organic life. It's created. It's not designed, you know, in any artificial way. And the Elohim are the carriers of that divine intelligence and that illumined seed of life. It has all the divine principles written and stored within that seed. The heart is the principle of Holy Christos, nature of the Christ, nature of love, illumined love, the beloved, the cultivation of the beloved. Hence, Christ can help you as a powerful teacher and guide when you're walking with the masters, right, to cultivate that. And even through when you ask for cosmic heart transference or the Shaktipat. And the crown is the booty, right, the principle of illumined knowing, illumined vision, cognition. Being an illumined being, an apprentice, always alert, always looking out. One more distortion that's very important. Someone recently mentioned, oh, this is my last wave I'm going through. There is no such thing. I was shown this myself through my own example. The moment you say, oh, this is my last such wave, this is the last one, you're going to be hijacked because you're having this fixated outcome, and they're kind of fooling you. They're mocking you because you're like just so focused on this as the last one. You don't see life as a spiral. You're literally going in it in a linear fashion. It's not a destination. This is a spiraling journey. Ascension needs to unwind the entire spiral of life through us and within us, and moving us into the union with all life. Recently, just now, through this process, I've channeled an amazing light activation. It's basically an access point to connect with the solar hub or the solar logos principle, which means you go to the inner planes, the inner realm of the sun. The inner sun is also a station where your divine family, well, my illumined family, that's why I always have to be out in the sun. People don't know me. I'm always out in the sun, summer, winter, whenever I can. When it's sunny, I'm out. Just sunbathing, just holding space. Because my illumined family needs to deposit information also in a way for me to receive it most easily is by accessing the solar portal, right? Because even when we send, we go through the solar portal. So I go there, I plug in, and in that hub station, they're depositing the messages for me. So I recently channeled this beautiful activation together with my friend. I was leading the activation, how through charging with light intelligence, all these three main body portals, the root, the heart, and the crown, and clearing them. The Illuminators come through with their sound. I'm going to teach that this month on Patreon. Actually, I'm going to do a transmission. This will be a whole sharing because it's very important for our ascension. They were showing me this as an ascension exercise, actually. So it's clearing them. They need to be clear spick and span clear, like translucent, and wrapped around with platinum light. And then you connect this powerful pillar as your own gatekeeping frequency and foundation. And then you weave this golden spiral, right? And then through, when you go into your third eye, you then weave a mini spiral, which will then connect with the big one. And then you're going to go to the hub station of the sun. And it's quite an intrinsic process, but I will explain it on the Patreon, okay? It will be at the advanced level for those of you who actually know what you're doing and want to join this consciously, not just in information in and out. If you think in any way, shape, or form you're here to get more information about your nature, who you are, about your lifetimes, or the nature of God, you're very wrong, and you yourself are being deceived. Anyone also in any sorts of pursuit that is more science-based, you're being used as well. In a lot of cases, what I've witnessed even through individuals, one of the darkest timelines in this realm was in Egypt. And in Egypt, a lot of these fallen beings and deities came, or these demigods, they came through, and those who were keeping the gates open for divine information were hijacked at that point. That's why a lot of these beings, although they're light within themselves, they were born and they choose to hold the space from the position of light. They were themselves at that particular timeline hijacked by many, many dark beings or fallen angelics. They're still clearing the patterns and pathways towards their rightful ascension because these dark angels and their scheming ways still have a hold on them. And until you're really ready to see all of these imprints, you won't fully wake up to the true nature of your divinity and what ascension is. As an illumined ascension, not a projection of what they do. There's so many programs of ascension running in the astral you don't even know, and it's not really what ascension is. Okay? So a lot of these gatekeeper beings were holding the gates open, not just for themselves, and light family, they kind of, at that point, and even moving now to this timeline, they're still kind of like encircled time looping around that same thing until it's fully acknowledged and cleared. They're still holding the space for darkness as well. And darkness kind of through them, these darker beings or dark angels, fallen angels, work through them, and they want to have their own things, their own agendas fulfilled through them. So let's say there's something very sciencey or science-based, and this being wants you to do that. And what it does, it creates a belief within yourself that you think that's what you're choosing, and you're actually loving that, you're loving that job, or you're loving that thing, but it's not who you are in nature as an angelic being. As angelic beings, as illumined beings, we're here to create spiritual pursuits. We're here to demonstrate the knowledge of God and the Christ. And if any tendency here in any way is sciencey, and you're trying to focus on getting information, and it's very egoic because information gives you power, right, when you know it. For me, when I said, as Aurea, I'm able to locate any sorts of knowing, like at any time, especially when I work individuals with them one-on-one. If that, of course, it's like what I do is guidance, right? But if that is focused on information, again, there's deception. Deception is so multi-layered that at this point, I want to give you another example, my dear beloveds. When I worked together with my friend and we were going through these notions of her liberation work, what she shared with me and what I was guided to talk to her about is through Aurea. Very consciously, she shared something with me about a specific group she's been in. And there was many, many groups she joined, for a specific purpose of witnessing that and then removing herself from that falsehood. There was one particular thing that really stood out, and it was a group of beings, and whenever she joined that group, they were telling her, even though she was not physically very cooperative or, how do you say that, demonstratively active, they always said to her, we love you when you join here, we love it when you join here, right? And then she entrusted me with something that made me very clear insight into these people. So first you have to know something about me. I can just look at a picture of someone or something, I automatically know. I know what they're serving, I know where they are, I don't know, I get an impulse. And I told you before, through Illumined Body Impulses, the way I receive is my family will just pulsate through me. I will read that impulse through the impulse of the body that's directly connected to life force intelligence or their organic intelligence. So it's very difficult for me sometimes to just know things and not always be able to tell people, because if they're not ready, I can't tell them, right? It's not something I can enforce upon anyone. But with the individual who's ready, I can share with them. And if they're open, they're just going to be like one veil after the other pulled, the wool pulled out of their eyes. And this is what my beloved was experiencing. Like, we were going through such a fast, accelerated growth notion with her. She was like, at a certain point, I can't believe, she was like, how dark is so deep and how deep it goes and all these things. I had no idea. And as much as disheartening as this experience was, it was also very necessary, and she chose it. And each time she made a step forward and another breakthrough as well. So in this example, right, there was these beings who were guiding these sessions, and something they were accessing in these quantum sessions. And because she's a seer, right, she's visionary, she came in handy, and she was holding the energy for the entire group. And then she told me that this person said, yeah, I'm actually this incarnation of this Melchizedek something, whatever, blah, blah. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, no, they're not. And immediately Aurea gives me a whole explanation what these people are unknowingly a part of, because a lot of these humans, they're good intended people. I'm not saying it's them that's doing something bad on purpose, but they're being deceived. And that's the problem, because they can't see. They're not illumined. They can't tell something from something else. They can't tell the difference. They don't have the illumined discernment yet. Go back to my illumined cognition video, right, in which we talk about all these things and how to achieve that gradually with time. So it's like, I realized in the moment when Aurea just shared the truth. She said most of these humans and these spiritual groups and these new agey events, especially if there's very large events, these beings, they will come and they will kind of convince them they're a part of them or their lineage, because they want to gather groups around them. And they need to harness the energy of the light and those light intended individuals who are participating. And they need those participants not just for money, they need them to gain information, but they use it for their own agendas. So a lot of times you're joining these groups, oh, sorry, it's getting a little chilly today, and you don't even know what you're joining, you don't even know what you're energetically contributing to, and what you suddenly become a part of, until you really, really, really wake up. And there's a lot of these situations that are not really pure. You have to be so careful, because they would use people to mine through their intelligence when they join in. They plug in. You plug into the hub, right? And then they would mine for information through these individuals. And what they would say, well, we're the Melchizedek ones. You have to be so careful, because you have to really ask, okay, is an illumined aspect of what you call yourself is to be Melchizedek, whatever? Because with every single groupings, many different associations, or these what we call societies, not all are physical, right? We say, oh, Illuminati and these societies, Rosicrucians, or, like Freemasons. A lot of these societies are astral, and a lot of these are like beyond beings. And they're fallen aspects of these associations and societies. And you might not know what you're really being plugged into. That's why those of you who are here in this path, together with me, as an illumined being, telling you the truth directly through Aurea and the team, I'm telling you, no one else but illumined beings. So those of you who are really doing your ascension work, you want to walk in unity and union with masters, and you want to focus on your inner work and your inner communication being, intact and clear and correspondent. You don't want to join these groups and channelings that you suddenly automatically are being pulled to. And it's very magnetic, right? It's very enticing, because it's almost like so much black magic is sent through at that moment, and such powerful releases. What they also need is they're using sexual energy of illumined ones, right? My friend had to learn herself this the hard way through her very fallen version of what we call a relationship, man and a woman, right? It was a very distorted relationship. And in many cases, when these darker beings are together with hooking these light-filled beings, they will use their orgasmic sexual energy to feed their darkness and to feed their projects, to feed their visions, what they want. And it's never selfless, and it's never for the benefit of the whole. They're using it for their own selfish gains and manipulation. So you have to know anything in your own life that is focused on, I need this, I want this, I need this and that. And when you're being selfish, these are my things, like people go on and someone would say, like, I'm like this with specific people, like just trying to show them the bigger picture. Yeah, but it's always the little I. Get off the treadmill. Wake up and smell the coffee, right? Wake up and smell the coffee beans. Like you really have to be street smart here. And you need a combination of physical training, right? The body work we've been talking about. People who do lots of body work will be more intelligent in their bodies because they know how to move the energy. And you need lots of spiritual knowledge. And spiritual knowledge is not information. It is the knowledge of how God works, how creation laws function. And that's all what the Elohim are and what they brought through me. And it's all my mini audiobooks, and it's in all my content and all my mastery courses. It's all out there. It came through. I was the first one to bring their full illumined knowledge of divine creation principles throughout all these years. But there wasn't any bigger purpose in my life but, clearing this transgression. That was the biggest mission. My purpose is to be a creation angel and to hold the space of illumined Elohim design and illumination of the body and teach illumined life force mastery. But the mission part of my work was only one. And the mission was liberating this transgression phenomena and activities of these electric discharges and many, many other experiments that are going on and deceiving the family of light. So creating this whole plotted, schemed way in which we receive information. So it could be distorted, like a new way of wiring they were trying to get us to be accustomed to and just say yes. Aurea said, frick no! Sorry, I didn't want to say the other F word because, I'm not going to be censored here. But that's what she said. She said, no! You will not deceive my children anymore. You will not put my children in cages. You will not put my children in laboratory experiments. Have you ever watched a TV show called The Original Angel? The OA. That show had some guidance in it. Watch it. Talking about the labs and experiments and all these things with the special ones, right? With the chosen ones, how they're luring them in. It's more about the physical aspect, but it's still a very interesting show. Lots was channeled there. And there's a specific group of children there who are working together to liberate the energies, and they're using this kind of moves and dance. They're using this to feed into the system and to liberate and to create timelines. It's very interesting. You got to watch that show. So the timeline reversal is something I cannot unveil here. It's something I'm learning myself too, but I hope one day when we're on the other side and I'm finally reclaiming my own ascended timeline, they pushed me through this transgression into a fallen timeline, basically the poverty timeline, and then they tried to do that with my own friend because she is now going through this very harsh liberation herself, and it's not pretty, and she ended up being homeless in another country, leaving a very dark situation, and it was very much serving as a prison. And I was the only one there helping her as her friend, sister, mother, companion, everything, and all in one. And we realized we're family and we kind of belong together. So it had to be there, and as this basic support. But it's still kind of like us regaining and recreating our original divine blueprint ascension timeline, which we're now seeing and tapping into our divine vision again and seeing it, because all the visions of poverty and being miserable here and alone and stuck here in these Alps are actually very, very fallen, and they're false. And they put these in through these dark webs, right? Hooked in and watching the screen. That's not the divine vision of God. So for now, I want to do these things myself, learning and cultivating this new awareness now that they're saying this final wave was released. These pulsars, the Illuminatorians came through and they were giving my mother messages when we were doing the last remnants of this healing work, right? I'm still going to need to do lots of healing work, but now it'll be more focused on remedying the body and charging the body back with life force because it was so depleted due to putting everything in this process. Because you can see me, right? How I look. It's not very pretty, and basically I have no hair left anymore. Very few. And even those that are remaining are burned. They're electrocuted here. They're just like stuck in a bun, like I have dreadlocks. It's not my style, to be honest. I don't want to have dreadlocks, but it is what it is. And so she saw them coming through and they did like this, yay, it's working. They were so happy. And they said, but not just because of us. They said, Polona Aurea did this mostly on her own. We were just helping and holding the space. But I am one very exhausted being due to this process. And I actually have the last sharing I want to give is I want to tell you, please visit my Patreon page, because this month I'll be sharing very important things. I'm going to be doing an Illumined Union reading. As always, going to be very important. I will do an advanced video message I always do for the advanced level, which will be about the Elohim Grand Vision Principle and the Creation Angels. The third aspect will be I'll do that transmission with teaching you the basic ascension technique with all the 3 body portals and pulling the spiral through. There's another exercise my mom actually channeled through her Illumined healers. They gave her this exercise, how to charge your body with energy through the solar energetics of your own solar or daily light. It's simple exercise, but so powerful. I'm going to combine these 2. I'll share them this month. I also created, I did amazing, I recorded this activation actually for my friend, but then I was guided to put it online and share it with everyone. It will also be on Patreon, but those of you who are not going to join Patreon, I will be on my light activations page. They're actually the healing waters of the mother. I don't know the title yet. It's basically an amazing activation in which you journey through the crystalline cave of your own illumined child, and you're going through different versions and aspects and reclaiming that purity and innocence through the mother's womb. And it's just a beautiful activation. I was by the river, I was by the water when I channeled it, and I actually want to do that as an offering too. So I know I'm late this month because I had this huge delay because of this work, and I didn't expect it to come for my birthday. This was not the best gift, but I hope that in any of the other ways I can be gifted. I was actually gifted by something I cannot put into words. It's not monetary, it's not physical, it's just a gift of another family member. You know, I just can't wait for us to be joined and be together. You know, that's something we're working on now. So these kind of things I'll share. But if you don't want to be on Patreon, go visit my live activations page. I'll put it there. Hopefully by tomorrow. The healing waters, you know, the waters of life of the mother, something like that I'll call it. I don't know yet because, you know, I haven't done it yet, but something like that. It's a really beautiful activation, and you'll journey through just knowing yourself as this innocent, illumined child of life, of creation, of holy design, of Holy Spirit. That's that. Last thing I want to share about these inceptions, what they do with a lot of these light ones of us, they trying to keep us distracted and basically focusing on either physical things or family members or like people you think they need your help all the time. If anything comes out of need and it's not spontaneous and it feels it's not playful, it's not in flow, it's like, yeah, I need to do this because it's my family member and I love them so much. You need to learn the basic principle of everyone is their own sovereign. And very few people have a very specific task or a mission with a specific soul. They came to share this exchange with, and usually these are illumined beings because they know how to do it selflessly, so that not a lot of their life force is lost. But with most people, with most humans, don't start to rotate around a person or a planet. You have to learn to do your own life force mastery work, your own liberation work, because you're here. If you're watching my videos, you're here for ascension. You want to move into the realm of your ascended realm with your ascended team in your ascended lifetime. And your only way you're going to do that is you're going to move through any transgression, any deception, and anything that doesn't make you and put you in a position of a divine sovereign. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes, you know, truth will be also very harsh. Sometimes you're going to have to yourself say to someone, you're serving the darkness right now. Go and do your work and then show up again with humility and with respect. Because you have to know something about light beings, illumined ones. When we hold a space for a specific individual and we're holding it for a specific time frame when that divine potential of life force is at maximum. But that, let's say that individual doesn't appreciate it, or they would say no, continuously say no, or like bouncing it off. Eventually we're going to have to move that potential and move it elsewhere, because it actually doesn't assist the whole. People think, well, it's indefinitely going to be there. No. And it's the same with the ascension framework and jumping and catching our most optimum timeline. So you better start creating your ascension timeline. If you're just here for the information, not doing any self-work, you're obviously on the wrong channel. I told you that before. Those of you who've been with me here long enough, you know that, and you know what I teach. And those of you who are new, you know, get the courses, get anything working, because you need to learn how to move the energy. And learning to move the energy is also a part of this work. right? Because we do the clearing and then we don't just passively wait. Then we need to learn how to move the energy. And I've recorded all these courses like Galactic Dance, Tantrika, all these things are there for everyone who's interested. And those who are just watching me do it, probably you're just gaining access to the way this can be done. And you're watching a being demonstrating that through my own example, that when you're ready, you do it yourself. A lot of souls here are just spectators and they're watching, and that's fine. But those of you who feel an urge, you feel as a passion, and you want to join this ascension timeline, and you're done with the 3D and the darkness and the fallen aspects, then you got to do the work and you got to join our beautiful tribe of ascenders. So the last thing I want to say, just don't get deceived with, keeping and pouring all your time and affection to saving your family members or friends or, whatever. When someone's with you, they're doing this work on their own. When someone's not doing the work, they're not ready. And you're not there to save them. And no one is a savior. Okay? The last thing I want to do is I want to put something out that Aurea recently told me through the example of my beautiful friend, companion, creation angel. We were going through the situation, right, in her example, and she was left without money in these very difficult situations, and difficult situation because it's not even her country, and she had to find something or somewhere where she would settle for a while, right, because we're trying to come together in a way, but we need some steps before that. And Aurea was saying, lots more souls need to demonstrate now what it means to be selflessly serving the Christ. And even in her own example, I told her, you need to put yourself out there and ask people for assistance, because some of these souls are actually meant to choose to serve the light in the way that they show and they demonstrate that they do support the Christ. And they do support those of us who are creation angels, who are unlocking these ascension timelines so that you can have an easier access for them. And this is not about begging. This is not about the power of not knowing how to powerfully create. No. This is about knowing, and in this process, right, I told her, you're learning how to create as a creation angel. We create. But it will take a time, because this is a training course, right? It's a quick course for her. Like it's like a fast forward training course. And it's difficult. But what I also said, we need more souls to demonstrate that the Christ is supported. Because remember, for those a year and a while, when I was wondering, and I was being homeless myself, and we're going through all these places, and terrible loss of money. So these terrible situations that happened to us, not a lot of people came and demonstrated to help. My money was just being drained. I wasn't getting any, and it couldn't work much because I was so transgressed. I was doing Patreon, but that in itself wasn't enough. Like more money lost than what we were actually able to receive. And we don't want that, because Aurea said now more souls need to demonstrate. And this is how sometimes souls demonstrate. They demonstrate by saying, yes, I'm here for the light. I will offer assistance. I'm demonstrating myself. Souls need to learn to demonstrate. And that's one of the purposes of choosing this path of light. And sometimes you will have to demonstrate what it means to really be selfless. Sometimes it won't be by giving money. Sometimes it will be through a prayer. Sometimes it will be, doing something on the behalf of that individual, physical or something. But since we're here and I have a few followers who are loyal, I would ask you, if you can, in any way, if you can support our current process of trying to come together in a way. It's a very difficult situation and it's tricky, and I can explain it because for our safety purposes and reasons, we can't give much information away because you never know who's watching, right? So we have to keep for now our plan not, disclosed, but just like enclosed. But trust me when I say that they were Aurea's words, and she said we need souls to learn to demonstrate. So if you can offer a prayer, or if you can help in, let's say, more physical, practical way, which is at least make a tiny contribution or a donation, I will ask my friend to send me her PayPal details, and I'll share the link down below. And if you have anything, at least a minimum amount of something you feel or wish to contribute, so she can just be set on the course of her liberation path, because we need to come together as family. We have a huge vision and our works for the near future, what we want to do also together. But I would just ask you if in any way, shape, or form you feel called through your heart. Aurea said, no, it's not enough that one person comes and says, I'm going to give this and that's enough. Aurea needs more souls to be able to demonstrate. Because when you demonstrate, your heart light grows and your sacred fire illuminates a speck more, and a little more, and a little more. So I'll ask her for details, and I'll ask you to carefully feel into your heart if that's something you feel called to do. And don't be afraid. It will cultivate and master you even more, okay? Because I will tell you from my own example, every time I've selflessly given, like physicality means nothing to me, not at all. And I could just give it away all if I wanted to, but I'm not always guided to, because Aurea says, no, there's lessons to be learned here, and there's others who need to demonstrate now. And so she's asking those of you here who are loyal in your heart, in the plan and the mission of the Christ, to join and do so. And that's that for now. But know that you'll always receive multiplication back. And if you've never tried it before, try it now. This is your time. Watch and see what happens when you actually do demonstrate, because you will always get back even more. So those of you who trust and are willing, thank you. And as always, with love, wisdom, and power, there's so many, many more ways and forms and deceptions I could talk about. They go on endlessly, but obviously I can, and it got really chilly. I need to take care of my body. So I know it's been another long video, but very important one. So we will see you in the next one, my dear beloveds. Yeah, next week the content will finally come out on Patreon. I'm sorry again for the delay because of my life circumstances. I've been actually healing this transgression unknowingly the entire time, and even throughout the summer. Some of you, I know I'm very far behind, and it is what it is. But it is time now. It's time for us. I am actually ready to just say goodbye for now and for a while, because after sharing my 4 videos that were pre-recorded, in which I documented our entire journey and the missionary work we were doing for these past few weeks, probably won't be recording for a while. I'll be holding space. We need to get this mission rolling, us coming together, and that will be my next steps. So again, thank you for your support. There's going to be lots to watch anyway, and on Patreon as well. Thank you for being here and being loyal. And as always, with great love and grace, I honor you. Thank you for being here, and I'll be seeing you.